the biggest thing is that we're all too good for our own well-being, right? We think that we could conquer the world with ourselves. Believe it or not, guys, you all came in here with your mother. One way, shape, or form, we didn't come to this world by ourselves. And it's the stigma of harden up, she'll be right. It's that Kiwi mentality, right? Harden up. When things don't go so well, hey bro, for some people, it might not be.
Welcome, you're listening to Constructing Mindsets. I'm your host, Vincent Saunders. This is the podcast that shines a good light on the construction industry. Whether you're on the tools, in the office, or supporting others behind the scenes, we are hearing from the people who are making this a better place to work and how they are doing it. Please consider subscribing or sharing this story. Thanks for joining us on this one. Let's get into the episode. Taking a bit of that energy from sort of the hope and sort of the good things and smiling and being happy on site. Despite these, a survey, 23% of people felt overwhelmed with work and 17% struggled with time pressures. Despite these numbers, many people are still saying they're good, but the survey has found that even amongst them, 1 in 5 reported suicide behaviours. Why do you think it is still so hard to open up out there, even with so many voices speaking up and all the training that's out there at the moment? Sort of, why is it still so hard for people to open up?
If you don't mind me starting this up, I think the biggest thing is that we're all too good for our own well-being, right? We think that we could conquer the world with ourselves. Believe it or not, guys, you all came in here with your mother. One way, shape, or form, we didn't come to this world by ourselves. And it's the stigma of harden up, she'll be right. You know, it's that Kiwi mentality, right? Harden up. When things don't go so well, hey bro, there's another day. For some people, it might not be. And it's that courageous conversation. I shared this in the research event. No, I wasn't in there physically, but I shared a light when I went out to Kaitaia. Very strong-minded people who has been working in the industry 20 plus years. And there's me coming out of the tools, going into this space, talking about mental health at 7 o'clock in the morning on Monday. I was absolutely petrified and saying, hey, you guys should reach out for help. I went in there with that mentality and I go, my goodness, these are the people that are actually wanting help, because for so long they've seen their friends, their best friends, their colleagues, their family go through isolation about mental health and not being able to talk about it. Now they've got the space, whether that's through us here at Mates or through other different organizations. They have a voice now, and we're no longer bashing them. We're actually celebrating them. We're changing it. We're shifting it. And I thought the shift has to come from us, young people, guys. But the shift is actually, from many, many different generations, which to me, it's really positive because, man, we need voices, not just here. We need voices from experience, from my guys starting up, our apprentices, because all of us here, the only way we can get through this, the only way we can start talking about things as if we all have voices. And I think that was the biggest challenge, is just breaking that barrier down and allowing our people to just speak. It is the hardest thing is actually being a listener, because we like to think that we could solve, fix, and help our mates out because we're hardwired to care. But it's such a skill, right? And the moment we learn to do that, it breaks more barriers down. And I think that's what we're trying to do.
Thanks, Ronnie. And sort of more to the point on speaking up, I've got a question here for Brandon, but maybe I might say the question, but then also have an alternative question, because I feel maybe we could look at it in a better way. So the question is, as a builder, what stops you from speaking up when you're struggling? But maybe I want to ask the question to you, Brendan. What gave you the power to speak up, or why do you want to speak up?
Well, I can cover both points off. So I'd start off by saying, look, I would consider, and you guys might think this is a little bit crazy, but I'd consider working in construction, especially for your life, the equivalent of being in the army. And the reason why I say that is, and this may just be ignorance on my part, but if I look at like someone who, let's say, works at a supermarket and all that sort of stuff, I don't understand how they have fun doing what they do, just because I love what I do so much. And also, you become a certain type of person. You're around the grouchy old guys, you have to be tough to get on with the last generation. Then you see the new generation coming in, and then you're like, I need to be tough against them now, and all that. And then it just breeds a industry and an environment where you feel like you need to be tough. Now, that crosses over to why do people don't talk, and also people feel like if I can't handle the pressures on my shoulders, I'm not tough. And people, so I'll keep it quiet, keep it to myself. But as Ronnie said, you can't keep that to yourself. Do you know what I mean? And you get to a point where you're like a balloon and you keep putting air in it, air in it, air in it, you're going to pop, you know. And unfortunately, if you don't talk to someone and relieve some of the air off, you know, you may not be here tomorrow, you know, and that's the gravity of the situation. The reason why I talk out, so I openly talk about my problems and so on and so forth. And the reason why I talk out is being fearful, I feel being fearful of people's opinions on what you say is weakness. You know, I feel like if you talk out, that takes strength to talk out. You know, we all want to be tough. We're in the industry wanting to be tough. If you hold this to yourself and you haven't got the courage to let it out, you know, I feel that lacks strength. So that's what it was. I just went in my head and went, nah, I'm going to talk to people about my problems. And one thing I found is it's almost like a North Star for other people to talk about their problems, you know? Like I'll do an Instagram story going, look, you know, I've had this problem today. I've messed this up today, so on and so forth. I'll get loads of messages with other people going, oh, mate, I did this, you know, I've done this before. And it starts opening a conversation, a dialogue between people, because along with financial pressures, another problem in the industry that was pointed out was the isolation of being on site. You know, we work by ourselves, we've got to focus on ourselves, you know, but that gets lonely. So it's just another way to build community by sharing your own story. Because although, you know, I might think I'm super amazing, my story's not unique. Other people have done what I've done. Other people have gone down the line further and could give me advice on what I've done. So it takes strength to talk out, and also you'll benefit greatly from talking out.
I appreciate that. Nerrissa, how can leaders spot the signs early before it becomes burnout or a breakdown maybe on site? Or how have you seen that on one of your sites? Or can you share a story of how that was maybe positively dealt with, or how you helped someone through?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of what I've learned has come from mates training. So they have the general awareness training, which probably most people in the industry have gone through at this point. And that's just their like short spiel on what the industry's facing, and then some of the support systems out there. And then the level up from that, if you're more interested in being sort of a leader in the space, is connector training. So that one is a bit more of like whether you want to be a go-to person. They give you a bit more in-depth training on what to look out for. But I think that's all good and well. But really, when you're working with your mates, you kind of get to know them and you know what their personalities are like. And so it's just having that awareness. Like I've got a lot of people on site that I just know what they're generally like. And so if they're normally loud and actively involved in site activities, and then all of a sudden they're quiet, you know, something's up. Or if somebody's drinking quite often, or picked up vaping or smoking, or they're normally a vapor and smoker and they're doing that more. There's always signs, but on the back of that, some people don't show it at all. So I guess it's just having those conversations, being able to feel comfortable asking someone whether they're okay. It can be prompted or unprompted, like having a coffee catch up with somebody and just, you know, checking in, how's life going? And there's always hints. I think mates call it invitations. So you can pretty much see when somebody is letting out a little bit of a sign that they want to vent a little bit more, and then it kind of just naturally flows from there. But I think my advice to anyone would be, like Brandon said, just being vulnerable with your struggles. And in no way is it like a pity party. It's more just showing that you're human. Like being able to speak about whether you're having a bad day, or, you know, like life throws so many curveballs. You guys know with kids, I don't have kids yet, but I've had people pass away. I've had breakups. I've had financial stress, family issues, things that pop up in life that you're just expected to carry on as normal, but you might not be. That's okay. You're not Superman or Superwoman, and you have to understand that you can't just take everything on yourself. And I think you can probably invite others to open up once you've shared your own experience. And so I found that probably works the best in my time in construction, is just letting people know if I'm not 100% there, whether it be somebody on site or that I trust or my boss. And it's always received well. And then vice versa, they share an experience in their life where they've struggled, or yeah, it just creates this sort of human connection, which makes you feel less like a robot.
Yeah, and I think probably 2 points, Nerrissa, and also back to what Ronnie, you were saying, just listening, active listening to people. Nerrissa, you also touched on being present with people. So if you are potentially having a conversation with somebody, not looking at your phone, sort of just taking on maybe cue points if they're looking down while they're talking to you, if they're sort of looking past you instead of maybe looking directly at you, might be clues for, something else going on. Being present with people, I think, and just actually listening to what they're saying, because you might hear their voice change or their mood in their eyes dip or anything like that could be a sign. Ronnie, I've got one question for you before we move on to the next session. The data shows workers who engage with mates at 3 or more touch points have their suicide risk nearly halved. What are the tools or training that makes this difference?
Nerrissa kind of touched base on what we do in terms of training. We make people aware, not to scare them about those statistics. The second touch point is being able to ask those clear, honest, and direct questions when someone is potentially struggling, just to either rule out suicide or just to help them out. And the third level of training is assist, which is what I believe Nerrissa has done as well, and that is a suicide first aid. But I think, personally, for my time, a little less than 3 years being in this space, I think the most important part of what we do is being present. Because we could wear this logo, we could wear any logo in the world, we could present that we're this mental health organization, but what does that actually mean? What that means is this interaction, right? Because I could talk to you over the phone and tell you I'm all sunshine and rainbow, and the other side of that, I'm actually breaking down inside. There's nothing more like an interaction with another human being. For me as a field officer, my job is to be on site. I go into toolboxes, I go into meetings, I go into briefings, I go into the positive stuff, the negative stuff. Well, one thing is certain is that I have time for people, right? I park my car. My car is one of 2 silver cars in the country for mates, and I park off for an hour. And I feel like that's the best outcome we could ever get, because the boys don't feel like talking to me in that big group. They feel like talking to me when it's just me and them, and they get the chance to talk. And I'm seeing a lot more movement in that. The first touch point is seeing us. I'm sure most of our trade have seen us. The second touch point is joining us in our training. And don't quote me in this, we'll train almost 100,000 people across the nation. That's awesome. And the third touch point is that physical interaction. Because I could speak in front of people, hundreds of people online. I may affect one person, I may talk to one person, but the most important part is the face-to-face interaction. Because with that creates a lot more reality, right, that you're sitting in. Because people may have a big poker face, but then, as what you guys say, you could pick up on those cues. The trust is there. Trust is a major thing. Because I'm sure many of us in this space don't feel like we could trust someone to talk about what's going on. And especially with the older generation, I have to show them that I know I care. I can't just show up and say, hey, talk to me. They won't talk to me. I have to build that trust. And I'm sure Nerrissa and Brandon, through their years in construction, they built that trust, right? And also the people that we build on site, our connectors, our assists, our champions, wherever they go, they've got that trust wherever part of the construction they're in. And I think with us having those touch points, it's not just about training, it's about the interaction between each other. And I think that's very important. And making it first and foremost, making it meaningful and direct, and of course, having that time and space for them. Because although time is such a big thing in our industry, but that's all probably they need. They just need your time. They just need another person to listen to you. And I think that is a wonderful thing that we can provide for our people that are struggling.
Some great points, and I've got a question here that kind of ties into time and space there. Bit of a group reflection. Do we feel we have enough space for connection on site, or is it always go, go, go? What is the golden standard for making connection on site? What are we striving to achieve with our connection on site?
I think there's so much room for improvement. Yeah, I think there's just especially now, is people versus productivity, and people are getting shunned to the bottom. And I don't know if Ronnie and Brandon see that in what they do, but yeah, I care about this stuff. I talk about it. I do a lot of things on the side. I don't know, give back with mental health. And yeah, I've had feedback that's not your job. That's not part of what you're meant to do as a site manager. Too much time spent on that. But I mean, I try to embody that in just my interactions, and not just this is all I care about. in my job, but we as site managers get to see people every day coming. And so if you are treating them like humans and you are having conversations and you are, how's the kids, how's the wife, and like actually, like building relationships, then I feel like it's just, it's a better place to be. I like obviously I've come from an HR background, so majority of my career has been in office, and in those jobs I've built really strong connections and I've had workmates that I see every single day. It's really isolating on site. Like, I'm lucky I have another site manager on the development I'm working at, but a lot of these guys come and go. They might be working on their own. They get moved around, have the opportunity to build on those relationships. So I guess if you can create that for them, then that's going to make somebody's day just a little bit better. I don't know I guess like the thing that a lot of people do is toolboxes or barbecues. And that's great. I think that does create space for everyone to just, like have some food, have a laugh. But yeah, I think not many sites do that or do that regularly enough. And I think that's definitely, and I don't know, like Brandon, he's, he doesn't work for a large developer like me, so he might not, have those big groups of people that he can interact with or even be able to create those opportunities. So yeah, I'd be interested to know what Brandon thinks of that question.
Yeah, no, on the smaller sites, not so much the case anymore. And because obviously the whole financial situation, as I said, we're trying to save money a lot. So, the infamous roof shout, for example, is like you never see it anymore. I mean, it pops up every now and again, but it's very rare. And yeah, just if you're on smaller sites, it's just not a case. Oh, we might meet up for a drink or something. We'll do that outside of work time. And as I just said, the problem with work is you're working so many hours. I've got the missus on the phone. Oh, these kids are doing my head up the wall. I'm going straight home after. I would love to hang around with you guys, have social time, but I've got to go, man. I've got the other fires to put out, so. It's a hard one. It's a hard balancing act, and what the golden standard is, I'm not too sure. To be fair, even on big sites, you'll have a smoker. We'll have a barbecue, but it's either during your smoker, and your boss is giving you that, having a look at the time, or it's outside of work time, and it's like, guys. So it's a bit of a difficult one because then you can't go, hey, pay for me to have a barbecue. I'm not too sure. So I find the best way to find community is not necessarily people on site, but other tradies through other avenues. For example, one thing me, Ronnie, and Nerrissa all have in common is we've all been part of Highball Clash Construction, and we still continue to help each year. And I'm not too sure about you two, but I feel being on the outside of the ring and helping all the other people and learning their stories is I get way more out of it than actually fight myself. So it's just finding community with other tradies in similar situations and other avenues. And I find that's a good substitute for, trying to find a good avenue to, collaborate with people on site.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, I'll just throw this in. I think potentially one thing that I have seen in a new role that might potentially work, again, time, money, and potentially something that I would like to see maybe the industry gets to if you are on a site with, multiple trades or sort of, maybe a larger site. There is a set time where maybe everybody meets at the gate or meets at a certain spot. They say, what are they up to today? This is where I'm working. My name's Bill. I'm here for the day doing this, this, and this. Come talk to me if you need help with anything, that involves that trade. I did see it on a large commercial site, but it was more the main site manager sort of talking to the trades, maybe like a bit of a morning stand-up. I know that's a bit corporate for maybe some of the trades out there, but that's just an idea that I think maybe could work at some stage in the industry.
And jumping on that, I actually have seen that, and I've seen the big good stuff coming out of that. Just to highlight the project Eastern Busways Alliance, what they do is they mold their subbies to run those toolboxes. So you don't actually hear your project managers nor your project supervisors. You get your steelies, you get your electrician leading the toolboxes because it gets a different voice out there, but it also gives them the responsibility of looking after their people. So they've got key responsibilities for First and foremost, if they're not religious, they share a prayer to start with each and every single day. They do a bit of warm up. I know most of the guys don't actually do it. They just start jumps left, right, and center. And just, hey, how are we actually going? Right? I'm sure you guys could attest to this. The most common word we use in the construction industry, right at the beginning, the moment you jump in your car or you jump over your car, hey bro, how you going? Yeah, good. Yeah, bro. Yeah, good. It's about making it meaningful and addressing that a little bit more. And I think, yeah, I like to highlight that project because that project does it extremely well. But also with Brandon's, smaller scale stuff, I've been a part of the smaller scale crew. They more of a family more than anything because they know each other's kids. They know each other's family. Because I'm sure Brandon would work with someone here and then maybe in a couple of houses he would work with another person. And it's about building that community outside work because believe it or not, guys, we have lives outside work and we are a father, a mother, a son, a sibling. We have those responsibility that comes in hand.
You're muted. But I was gonna jump in. I also think like this podcast, I'm not greasing you up. I actually think it's really cool. And I think when I started in construction, obviously didn't know too many people in the industry and I didn't come through a trade background, so I didn't have lots of connections, but I did try and look for things like this. I did try to find like any tradie influencers on Instagram, like what Brandon's doing, look for stories out there just to be like, wonder what these people are doing, and like I wonder what inspired them to get into this, and I wonder why they like it and things like that. So it's like I'm like so excited when your podcast come out because I'm just like I want to hear what people have to say, and like often it's positive, and like you say, like a lot of what you hear about the construction industry is negative. So it's when you're having these conversations, it is inspiring, and like I think a lot of who might listen to it are people that are starting out, and this is really important stuff for them because it kind of just I don't know everything that happens in the construction industry, and hearing from different perspectives is really cool. And it probably is helping with mental health too, because you feel connected just listening to people's stories.
Yeah, thanks, Nerrissa. Truly means the world to hear you say that. So, yeah, really appreciate it. That's it for today's episode of Constructing Mindsets. Remember, every conversation is a chance to shift the culture of construction. Subscriptions and reviews are always appreciated. Until next time, take care and keep showing up with good energy. Let's keep building the kind of industry we want to be a part of.